Hello my dear friends, you're in the MilitarySummary channel. In this video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous 12 hours. We have lots of very interesting updates, so let's start. And first we're going to talk about the Sudzha direction, where the Ukrainians continue their offensive operation. I'll remind you that yesterday, on the 5th of January of 2025, the Ukrainians decided to attack the settlement of Berdin and the settlement of Novosotnitsky. The Ukrainians were using these roads of attack. They were moving from the settlement of Cherkasskaya, Porechna and Pravda. The Ukrainians managed to cross several tree lines and then to enter the southern part of Berdin. When the Ukrainians reached the northern part of Berdin, they turned in the eastern direction and managed to reach the central part of the settlement of Novosotnitsky. As you can see, we have lots of geolocations in this area. Most of the videos were provided by the Russian side, and there are very important details that I would like to point to your attention. The Russians published very interesting video of how the Russians were repelling those Ukrainian attacks, and according to information we have, the Ukrainians made 3 waves of attack. In this video we can see lots of vehicles that were moving through the fields in the Russian direction, but when talking about this video there is one important thing I would like to point to your attention. First of all, this attack took place yesterday on the 5th of January, and as you can see there is an icon in the bottom part of the screen, and this is the icon of Russian government media, which means that right at the beginning of Ukrainian offensive operation, the Russian government media was already in the command center and they were filming the process of how the Russians were repelling attack. I'm trying to tell you that the Russians knew before the beginning of this offensive operation from the Ukrainian side that this offensive is going to take place, and the Russians knew before the beginning where exactly the Ukrainians are planning to attack, which villages and towns the Ukrainians are going to attack, and what time the Ukrainian offensive was going to start. So everything the Russians knew probably several days before the Ukrainians started this offensive operation. Later, another important thing, some pro-Ukrainian sources, pro-Ukrainian sources deep state reported that this offensive operation, that the Russians had this information about this offensive operation long time before the Ukrainians started this. There is one interesting statement in this article. The only question is what kind of a blogger from Spain announces the counteroffensive actions of the armed forces of Ukraine in 48 hours, indicating the exact location of the assault and almost the exact time. So 2 days ago, some Spanish bloggers have already published information about this offensive operation. So if some Spanish bloggers knew for sure where exactly the Ukrainians were planning to attack, obviously the Russians had this information long time before, and this is very important. Another important thing from this video, from the videos and icons that we received from this direction, is this one. This is very interesting. Since the beginning of the Ukrainian offensive operation, the Russians published a lot of videos of how they were repelling Ukrainian attacks, and this is one of the video. And this is very interesting and important video because in this video we can see a lot of FPV drone attacks of the armed forces of Russian Federation on Ukrainian vehicles that were attacking Russian positions, and most of these attacks were made with the use of fiber optic drones. Since the beginning of Ukrainian offensive operation, the Russians haven't published even a single video that can show us regular FPV drone attack, not fiber optic, which means that maybe indeed the Ukrainians were using something new when talking about electronic warfare equipment, and basically the Russians' regular drones didn't have any chances to deal any damage to the Ukrainians. At some point, as I understand, the situation in the Berdin, in the village of Berdin and Novosotnitsky was very difficult because probably for the first time for a very long period of time, the Russians published the video of how they were attacking and bombing the Ukrainian vehicles that were involved in that offensive operation with Ka-52. You know that the last time I saw the use of Ka-52 in Masevo took place somewhere somewhere in 2023 when the Russians were repelling Ukrainian attacks in the Zaporozhye direction. After that, the Russians sometimes published the videos with Ka-52, but telling the truth, there weren't not so many videos of this type. And when talking about the Kursk direction, the Russians were forced to use Ka-52 once again. According to information we have, the Ukrainians used up to 20 vehicles in this offensive operation. Telling the truth, almost every single month, the Russians attack the Sivers direction with the same number of vehicles, 20, 30, 50. Sometimes even there was an attack when the Russians were using up to 42 vehicles to attack the city of Siversk, and the Ukrainians repelled all those attacks without any use of Ka-52. Usually the Ukrainians were repelling those Russian attacks just with the use of FPV drones, and the Russians can do the same. If not the electronic warfare equipment, the Russians could have repelled this attack just with the use of regular FPV drones, but we see that something went wrong and the Russians were forced to use Ka-52. We have also geolocation from the Russian side in the eastern side of Novosotnitsk. In this video we can see the edge Russian positions and how the Russians were attacking the Ukrainians in the western part of the settlement. Based on this video we can see the edge positions of the armed force of Russian Federation. Starting on this morning on the 6th of January, the Russian sources start publishing information that Ukrainians are about to begin another wave of attack, and most likely today the Ukrainians will try to improve their positions in this area with the purpose to prepare the foothold before next offensive operation in the direction of the settlement by the name of Большое Soldatskoye. So the upcoming day is going to be very difficult both for the Russians and for the Ukrainians. Furthermore, according to different mappers, the Ukrainians managed to take under control the forest, this big forest to the south of the settlement of Berdin. Now let's discuss what was the Russians doing all this time. According to information we have and according to report of the Minister of Defense of the Group of Forces North, the Russians, as a result of offensive operation, managed to establish complete control over the settlement of Leonidovo, and the Russians managed to reach the outskirts of the settlement of Viktorovka. The Ukrainian sources published the video of how the Russians were attacking in this area. Lots of casualties, lots of Russian tanks were damaged and destroyed. And when talking about this video, we can see that the Russians mainly were destroyed on minefields and maybe as a result of attacks of regular FPV drones. Once again, according to the Group of Forces North, the settlement of Leonidovo was captured by the Russians completely. As for the southern outskirts, the Russians also managed to improve their positions, and also according to the report of the Group of Forces North, the Russians managed to take under control more than half of the settlement of Makhnovka. Some sources reported that the village of Dmitrikov and the village of Makhnovka, villages of Dmitrikov and Makhnovka, were captured by the Russians completely. And also we have different updates from different mappers showing us some improvements on the ground. So once again, while the Ukrainians are trying to attack the settlement of Большое Soldatskoye, the Russians are attacking the city of Sudzha itself, and the Russians are trying to take under control the village of Malaya Loknya. So furthermore, we have lots of videos of how the Russians on the northwestern flank were attacking the Ukrainian vehicles with the use of Lancet drones, and how the Russians were attacking the Ukrainians with artillery and just regular weapons. Once again, since the beginning of this offensive operation from the Ukrainian side, we haven't seen even a single video of how the Russians were attacking Ukrainian vehicles with the use of just regular drones. In this video, we can see the evacuation team probably of the armed forces of Ukraine that was ambushed by the Russian fiber optic drone in the vicinity of the village of Vodolahi. So once again, another episode already on the territory of Sumy region, but with the use of fiber optic drone, but not of regular drone. So let's wait for additional updates. Today they're going to be very heavy situation, very difficult situation most likely. And now let's discuss the situation in the Kurakhova direction. Today the Minister of Defense of Russian Federation gave us the final statement about the battle for the settlement. The Russians are saying that in the course of active offensive action, actions, the group of forces south managed to establish complete control over the city of Kurakhova, the largest settlement in the southwestern part of Donbas. In 10 years, the Kiev regime has turned it into a powerful fortified area with a developed network of pillboxes and underground communications. It is secured by a reservoir to the north, which significantly limited the maneuvering capabilities of the Russian assault units. To defend the populated area, the armed force of Ukraine has put large forces to include nationalist and foreign mercenaries detachments, strengthening them with artillery and tanks. This includes the units of the Elite 79th Air Assault Brigade and 46th Air Mobile Brigade, as well as 5th Heavy Brigade, 33rd and 157th Mechanized Brigade. The Russians are saying that in total, the armed force of Ukraine command has concentrated 26 battalions with a total strength of over 15,000 troops. The Russians are saying that as a result of battle for the city of Kurakhova, the Ukrainians lost up to 80%. So around 12,000 soldiers of the armed force of Ukraine were destroyed by the Russians during the battle for the settlement. And now the Russians continue advancing further in the direction of Dachne. The Ukrainians are saying that this is the next defense belt, but most likely the village of Dachne would be captured by the Russians within the next 48 hours. Also, we have some changes on the ground. The Ukrainian sources published the video how they were attacking the Russian positions between the city of Kurakhova and the river of Sukhiye Yali. In this video, the tanks of 33rd Mechanized Brigade was attacking the Russian edge positions with tank. So this is the place where the Ukrainian tank was, and the Ukrainians were attacking these three lines. Based on this video, we have adjusted the map. Also, this morning, the Russians began artillery preparation in the settlement of Yantarne. Most likely today, the Russians will make first attempts to attack the settlement with the purpose to take this village under complete control. So let's wait and see what is going to be next. Furthermore, the Russians managed to improve their positions between the village of Shevchenko and Petropavlovka. The fields between the settlements were captured by the Russians and secured, and we see that the Russians continue advancing in the direction of Andreevka fortified area. The situation for the Ukrainians is very difficult because very powerful and very, let's say, complex network of the fortifications was taken by the Russians, and the Russians are moving further. As for the city of Pokrovsk and the city and this direction in the area of responsibilities of the group of forces center, the Russians during the previous night managed to improve their positions along the entire line of combat contact. So let's wait and see what is going to be next. During the next several days, there is going to be another Ramstein meeting where Zelensky will get additional military packages and military aid, and then everything can be started from the beginning. Today, the Ukrainians will continue their offensive operation in the Sudzha direction, so let's wait and see what is going to be next. And that's it for the short video. Military Summary channel reminds we condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.